You know, when we made the first series of the wine show, Matthew Rees said something that, for a sort of small hairy Welshman, was incredibly insightful. It actually taught me quite a bit. He said, I've got wine now. I understand it. And what do you mean? He said, it's a combination of, I think I've got this right, grapes, weather, soil, and people. And I'd studied wine at this point for about 20 odd years, 25 years. And suddenly the whole thing kind of made a certain amount of sense. It's Chablis week at the wine show at home, which I'm really enjoying because I really like Chablis. So I just get to drink Chablis all week. I've got all of the ones out because today's day 3 of Chablis week, and so we're going to catch up and see where we were at. But I was sort of thinking about it, and remember I said to, I think it was at our last little episode, I said, you want to go and understand the world of wine. It might have been the first one. You kind of go to Chablis because, in a way, you understand. If you understand that wine region, other ones are much more easy to understand. So you go to Bourgogne, you go to Chablis, and you kind of get it there, and it then becomes a brilliant way of. And when I do wine classes, I've been an educator, a level 3 certified assessor, I think it was, with the Wine and Spirits Education Trust. We used to go to Chablis quite early on, say, right, get this, the rest of it will fall into place. So if you think about it, it's grapes, weather, soil, and people. So grapes, dead straightforward, it's Chardonnay. But then often there are different grapes that have different characteristics, and one of the nice things about Chardonnay is that it's this very malleable grape. It doesn't so much taste of what it is, it tastes of what you do to it, which is the other 3 bits, really. So, yeah, it does have a kind of taste. It tends to be quite citrusy. It's got a really clear line to it, but also it changes with quite subtle differences. So, grapes, weather. Well, it's a very cold region, so it's quite high up. So you get a really fresh, zesty, linear, tangy, mineral quality to it. I think the minerality partly comes from the soil, but I think also the weather. So that comes through. And if you get slightly warmer vintages, you get a bit more fruit. If you get cooler vintages, it tends to be a bit leaner and sort of tighter. You get what I'm coming at. Soil, well, in Chablis, it's this Kimmeridge marl, which we know is amazing soil, and it gives particular characteristics. It seems to particularly give this minerality to the wine. It certainly changes as you go through the 4 bits. So you've got Petit Chablis, actually, we're going to have today, which is on Portlandian limestone, slightly different, a little bit harder, creates a slightly different style of wine. And you go into the main part of Chablis, and it's this subsoil, and then you get to the Premier Cru sites, which are kind of the same, but then the soil is on more of a slope, so it's catching more of the sun, so you get more intensity to it. And then you get the Grand Cru sites, where it comes right through to the surface. There's very little topsoil at all. It's just bedrock. And it's really steep, and so it makes the most intense wines. Grapes, weather, soil, people. And each person makes a slightly different style of wine. And they do things that are slightly differently, which segues, amazingly, into the first wine today. Have a look at this. What have we got here? Domaine Jean Goulley Petit Chablis 2018. Just over £20, £20.22 at strictlywine.co.uk and others. So that was just a place. All of these were all from Strictly Wine. I'll tell you why I sort of picked this one out, though. This is a little bit more expensive than some other Petit Chablis. And this is slightly to show you that Petit Chablis doesn't mean that it's lesser or small. This is a really interesting wine, got great intensity to it. When I had a first sort of noseful, I'd have actually put this as village level Chablis anyway. And it has a slightly hazelnutty note, which was really interesting. Now, the other reason why I went and picked this out, this is an organic wine. I've got some little notes here. And there are lots of these increasing numbers of organic vineyards. So it's farmed organically. There's very little sulphur, which you use as a sort of antibacterial agent, so there's less of that. The idea, as Philippe says, that he gets more expressive, sustainable soil, which then shows itself in the wines. The wines are livelier and expressive and have more minerality to them. They're pure and lively, the sort of terms he uses. The other thing is he has, in the vineyard, soils are fascinating. I'm kind of a bit of a soil freak. Within the vineyard, you've got the sort of bedrock, and that changes slightly. And then you've got the soil, which you want to have sort of interesting nutrient matter in it because that gives more interesting, expressive wines. And organic farming certainly contributes to that. And then on the top, there's these things called cailloux. Now, bear in mind, remember we said this is a really cold part of France. The cailloux are big rocks. You get them also, in other places, but you get these big lumps. Now, in any other farming, you get rid of them because you have massive rocks in your field. I don't want that. Get rid of it. But here, you leave them in because they act as like storage heaters. So then, when the temperature drops at night, these rocks are still slightly sort of glowing. And particularly, if the temperature drops a lot, it allows the grapes to continue ripening a bit in the night because it doesn't get too cold. Interesting stuff. Green gold, lovely colour actually. Expressive, lively, fresh, still an aperitif style of Chablis. That's good. And this has a real apple tang about it. You got a really sort of good green apple. Oh, this is more food friendly, more of a sort of foodie Petit Chablis than some other styles, which you can be a little bit softer and gentler. And this is a proper food wine. Really clear line. It is sort of, I need to get a knife and an apple and slice it through because you've got to get the knife in to get that character. That is very tangy. It's a really fruity minerality. Minerality is an odd one. Never really sort of got it. But, it is in that sort of sense that you walk along a river bank, or it's a bit like petrichor. Petrichor, which is that smell when it's been a thunderstorm, and we get this kind of ozone smell, or you smell of, the ground after the rain. I think that's technically petrichor, is the smell of the ground after a rainstorm, particularly in the summer. And there's this sort of minerally aroma to it. It was also terribly Proustian. There's an element of that. It's certainly got a sort of ozone post-thunderstorm sort of tang. But minerality can be quite fruity. It's not necessarily austere. Some can be quite austere. This is quite fruity. I'm having to sort of chew that round. Always do that thing of... Just a minute. I'm going to make a mess because it's going to be spitty. Always do that thing of rolling it around your mouth. The two things you're looking for. One is the dribble test, which is how much is it making you have to stop talking because you're dribbling too much. That's a really good indicator of the acidity levels in a wine. So you can compare one to the next. You'll always get quite dribbly with sounds awful, with Chablis, but it's because it's got that beautiful freshness, which goes really well with food. The other thing is you're feeling the sort of texture, and because this has had a bit of time in its lees, I think I definitely know in a stainless steel tank, that just gives you a little bit of granularity. It's the best way. It's not tannin. It's more just that there's ever such a slight textural flowery grip that's there, and that really works well. It does various things, but amongst other bits, it allows the wine to have more persistence in your palate. I'm still aware of it now, and that's because it's giving up these aromas more slowly. It's really good. So remember, this week I've got a couple of other things to go and recommend for you as well. But this week, go and get yourself away. Get a Petit Chablis like this. We had Jean Goulley. We also had earlier in the week Petit Chablis. The other thing, to go and have a variation. Try your way through. We had this Chablis the other day. This is the sort of core of it. This is mostly what the region goes and makes. Village level wine. It's brilliant wine. It's absolutely, goes with loads. And as you try different producers, you'll find slightly different expressions. For a bit of a treat, Mrs. F is rather hoping I can keep this one for downstairs. Premier Cru. And that gets really interesting because what you need to do is this is your task, this is your homework. Find which is your favourite Premier Cru. So you go and play around with Vaillant, Léché, Côte Léché, Vaudezire, Valmour. They've all got lovely names. Forêt, which we just have there, which is sort of part of Montmain. So I think there are 47 climats. But they tend to some of them get rolled into other bigger names, which are a bit more familiar, like Montmain. Forêt is relatively little known, it isn't quite so well known. But go around and see which is the one that you like the most. And for a big treat, Grand Cru Chablis really is one of the great white wines of this world. It's one of those things you ought to have tried kind of once if you can, because it really is the ultimate expression of Chardonnay. There are those who argue it is, because I've read about them. It's certainly absolutely top tier, top of the Premier League, you know, top of the pedestal white wines. Good stuff, that. Right, we'll come back to those maybe a little bit later on. What else have we got? Right, what you want to do? You want to go and build together a bit of a case. So I dug around for a couple of other bits. We went away to other places which are, fun enough, they've never quite scaled the heights when it comes to Chardonnay, so they've got other bits and pieces. This is, what we've got, some Lismore Pinot Noir. This is £27.99, made by a lady called Samantha O'Keefe, who's big chums with my colleague Amelia. Hello, Amelia. Hello, Samantha. Samantha had a terrible time. Her winery burnt down. It's really awful. It's worth buying just to support her business, get her back on her feet, because they are extraordinary winemakers in South Africa. Ooh, that's lovely. She was originally Californian, and she was gone away and making wine in South Africa. Oh, this is nice. Down on the south coast, very cool. Again, it's that sort of thing. Where is it? It's very cool. Fragrant, squished strawberries. And oaky, actually. This is classy Pinot Noir, it really is. And again, that mineral tanginess on the palate. This is really good. So some of it's been fermented in whole bunches. That gives you quite often really interesting textural notes, more complexity. And it's been in lots of wood, gentle pigeage. I love how people still use French words as they go around. Pigeage is sort of, plunging down. I've done it once, and it's really scary because you think you might fall in. So you sort of stand over this vat with a funny stick with a platform on the end of it. It's like a sort of upside down bird table. And then you kind of lean in and you plunge down. But then you can't think, well, just a minute, if this gives way too quickly and I don't have my balance, I'm going in that, which used to happen. People used to go in regularly. People used to just swim around. It's a picture I've got somewhere of a monk swimming in a vat of wine, just naked. And it was to go and do the pigeage naturally. And then this is pressed in traditional wooden basket press. This is really lovely. Oh, what's that going to go with? I've got a nice bit of beef downstairs, actually. I've got some 28-day aged beef. I might have it with that. Fragrant, delicate wine. And what else did we go and pull out? That's going to sit on my palate. Ego. Zorzal Ego Tinto di Tizza from Tupuntago. Have a quick look. There's a colleague of mine. Hello, Charlotte. Charlotte is going to appear in Series 3 of The Wine Show. And Charlotte co-founded Sager and Wild, which is this extraordinary wine bar in Hackney. She's a sort of wine trade legend, is Charlotte. And she worked, and she did a stint in a harvest at Zorzal years ago. She went and showed me some pictures of it, and she was sort of out and about. She hasn't, well, I don't know, maybe you have fallen into a vat doing pigeage, Charlotte, you just haven't told us. Perhaps that was the sort of shame of what happened when you were away. But she's a proper wine legend. We go to Portugal together. We sort of overlap, but she goes off in one direction, I go off in another. We go and visit lots and lots of people. So look out for her, Series 3. She helps me out with doing these as well. So she's an integral part of this, but she refuses to come in front of the camera. Can we have a campaign to get Charlotte to come and appear on one of these? Because I keep saying, oh, come on, Charlotte, let's do something. You come on screen with me. Going to get Amelia on as well. But Charlotte's, no, I don't want to do it. I just want to sit behind the camera. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. So what's interesting about this is, I slightly chose this because it's got this mineral character. Minerality is the province of Chablis, but you do find it in other wines. So if you want to know what it really tastes of, go to this, and then you'll find it in other styles like this. So I'm going to have a swirl and a sniff. There is that minerality. Now this is a red wine made from Malbec in Argentina. It couldn't be more different. And yet, when you get what minerality is, then you can go and find it elsewhere. That is the sort of lodestar of minerality, is Chablis, and then you can go and pick it out in other wines. Now, the reason this has it is because, I've got a little bit down here, it's been done in an egg. That's what it's called, ego. So part of its élevage, I think, as a sort of fermentation, is in a sort of concrete, a cement egg, and it seems to capture more minerality in it. Slightly leafy, herbal, peppery, totally different from any Malbec I've ever had before. Absolutely delicious. It's really good. Still blackcurranty. It's less of the inky character. Often Argentine Malbecs you get a sort of ink, like quink ink, which is a minerality of its own, but it's a bit more graphitey, I guess. It's less of that. There's something clarity about that. Very dark plums. It's a leaner sort of, how can we describe it? It's a sort of leaner, more slimline style of Malbec. A lot of them are very big, muscular, brash, slightly hairy wines. This is more directed, athletic, lissom. It's lissom. There's a word we don't hear enough of. Delicious. Right, what do you need to go and do? I hope you've enjoyed this week. It's been quite nice coming back for 3 eps. Doing 3 episodes, but we thought, well, we'll go and make an exception to our recently imposed rule of only doing 1. So we'll come back, but there's a sort of subject we wanted to come back and we'll do more of these kind of things where we delve into something. And thank you everybody who wrote in and said, I'd like to learn a little bit more about Chablis. I mean, it just happened that we had a number of letters and we thought, well, yeah, we will do. What we'll do is we'll have one every day. We'll do 3 episodes and we'll sort of dig through. And it is a wine, I think, that once people get that, then they feel they know sort of other bits and pieces. We were sort of guilty of going off slightly too off-piste. This is one of the great classic wines of the world. And you've got to know your classics before you can go elsewhere. So, go and reacquaint yourself with one of these great classics. So remember, you've got your 4 levels. Petit Chablis, Village Chablis, Premier Cru Chablis, and Grand Cru for a very special occasion. Wait for at least 5 to 7 years. That's why I'm not drinking that just yet. And just enjoy it. Try it in different ways. Have your aperitif, and then your main course, and then your birthday party, and then your very important birthday party. Look, we'll be back next week. I think it was just 1 episode next week, but we're looking forward to going and seeing you then. Send in your questions. Ask us stuff. Follow. Remember, was it share, like, share and subscribe? I thought I had a thing to go and make it happen, but it's terrible. But yeah, do. And what we'll do is we'll have all these wines on our recommendations. They all come out with loads more information on our newsletter. I'll tell you what I'll promise to do. Charlotte, remind me. I'll promise to do a little bit of extra stuff so that we'll give people a little bit more direction about going and trying Chablis, and we capture some of the notes of what we've done this week. See you again next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye. Have another glass.